Welcome, Eagles, to another edition of Track Hat Night special guest exclusive podcast right here on the trackhat8.org website, folks. Today is April the 8th, 2023. I hope you all are having a very wonderful and blessed day, as always. What's the latest happening up there, Stefan, before we get into your talk on leadership today?
Yeah, well, they're trying to bring in that CBDC nonsense here too. I have not been following it too closely, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I can't keep up
Yeah,
with the thousand cuts, with
yeah,
all their little
yeah.
evil schemes. I can't keep up with it all. It's just too much. But I'll tell you one thing. You hear these guys and they're going to take over the world and they're going to control everything you do and everything you think and what you eat and where you can go, and they're going to mastermind everything, and you're all going to be slaves and eat bugs and blah 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 blah. And my attitude to that is, yeah, good luck with that. you know we have seen these megalomaniacs throughout history
Mm-hmm.
wanting to rule the world, and we're the all powerful, and we're the elite, and we're the chosen. And it's never worked out, because first of all, we have Murphy's law. You know Murphy's law, right?
I've heard of it, but rehash my memory. I should like. Is that for every action there's a reaction or something like that, or
No,
am I way off on
sort
that?
of. No, not exactly. Basically, Murphy's law is, if it can go wrong, it will go wrong.
Okay, there you go. No, I was way off.
you know
I don't
the,
know what law I was thinking. But yeah, no, I get you.
Yeah, if it can't go wrong, it will go wrong. Listen, we've all experienced Murphy's Law. How many times, has one thing after another, after another, after another gone wrong, despite all our best plans and despite all our best efforts? Things often, more often than not, turn to shit. That's just the way it goes.
Right? Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It is a divine law of nature. So when all these elites start sprouting wings and flying around, okay, then then I'll get worried. But until then, they are still subject to the same laws of nature as everyone else. And one of the laws of nature is Murphy's Law. So they can make all these plans, and I just kind of laugh at them, because there's another thing. No matter how invincible your enemy seems, there is always a weakness. There's always a flaw in their strategy, and it's up to us, Eric.
What would
Uh,
you say is their weakness? That's a good point. I don't think in all the years that we've done shows together, I don't think we've actually like identified some of the weaknesses. Well, you just mentioned one of them being megalomaniacs, thinking they could do whatever, whenever on their own time. But what would you say would be some of the loopholes? Because obviously that's very aggressive, to really to tag and bag every last human being in terms of this mark of the beast thing that's coming, and
yeah.
that's obviously quite aggressive, and that's why, at least according to our perspective, when all is said and done, the early church fathers said we are going to have to scramble to the mountains, into the caves, and basically hide out, type of thing. But what would be some of the weaknesses you think?
Well, the other weakness that they don't take into account is called the five laws of stupidity. Google it. It's an essay written by an Italian mathematician who sat down and calculated uh, the amount of stupidity in the world. It really did. And the rules of the five laws of stupidity is, number one, there's always more stupid people than you can ever imagine.
Right.
Number two, stupidity is independent of any profession. So there are just as many stupid truck drivers as there are stupid college professors, as there are stupid doctors. Stupid is the same percentage in every demographic, right? So you think,
Yeah.
oh, I'm going to hire all college graduates. No, it doesn't matter. You hire all the college graduates you want, there's still the same percentage of stupid. And according to the first law, that percentage is always way more than you can
Right.
possibly
Yeah.
imagine,
Yeah.
right? And the third law of stupid is something like, again, I'm just going off the top of my head
Right.
from
Right.
memory
Right.
here. Third law of stupid is that stupid people are stupid because they do things that don't just hurt other people around them, but hurts themselves too. So you can't predict stupid. That's the third law. You can't predict it. You can predict a criminal, okay? Oh, he's going to rob because then he's going to get your money and he benefits, and so you can understand that. It's logical. There's nothing logical about stupid people. They will do things that, yeah, will hurt you. Or maybe you lose money, or maybe you get injured, or whatever. They get no benefit out of it. How can you predict the behavior of people that don't operate according to the desire to benefit from other people's suffering? That's stupid people. So there's okay, Klaus Schwab and all these guys are up there, and they send out the order to everybody. Okay, track every person, give them an implant, do this, do that, do that. The trouble is, those orders are filtered down through various levels of hierarchy. And every level of hierarchy is going to have a whole bunch of stupid people that don't know what they're doing. I mean, look at the look at Joe Biden and Kamala Harris and all that. I mean, they got script writers and screenwriters and handlers and vocal coaches and all that. Does that save them from looking stupid? Absolutely not. They're stupid. You can't prevent it. You can't save it. You can't fix it. So the elites, like if everybody was a genius, okay, maybe they could get away with this. But everybody that works for them, everybody from the DAs to the installed puppet president and everybody, they're idiots. They can't do anything. And so the whole elite structure is relying on tens of thousands of morons to carry all this out. It's not going to happen.
Yeah, and from our perspective too, we kind of look back where it started, looking back at Satan, who thought he could be better than God, and the blindness that pride represents, and it stems from that disposition, of course, from these New World Order types that they're better than us, right? We're just useless eaters. We're better than us type of mentality, and we know in the end, they're going to have their season. It'll be short lived, just like any other Reich or regime or whatever from times past. It'll blow over, but in the meantime, as I've been saying, and I didn't mention to these off air, within the traditional Catholic world, I mentioned this a few minutes ago. I did a video on the 3 days of darkness, because from the Catholic perspective, like we're gonna, I mentioned this off air about it'll be more like guerrilla-like warfare. We're just gonna have to kind of stave off the New World Order type of thing until this 3 days of darkness, where that's where God's intervention kicks in, and he basically annihilates all evil. Basically, like 3/4 of the world perished. The Antichrist is going to perish with all his Mark of the Beast minions type of thing. But until we get to that point, like we've got to have as many skills as possible. The whole leadership side was just going to be a great talk today. I mean, there's debate whether is it instilled in someone at birth? Can you learn it? Type of thing. So that's a couple of questions I'm going to ask you today. But just in general, there's going to be, it's going to be tough times ahead, as you know, Stefan. And it was very disappointing to see one bishop in the church who, for the most part, isn't too bad, like, I guess with doctrine or whatever, but he actually came out and was telling Catholics, like, hey, don't worry about some of these private prophecies, in a sense, like no need to get prepared, like type of thing. And it really kind of ticked me off, because I'm like, even scripture disproves of that. You know what I mean? Like Noah not only warned people of the flood, he actually built an ark, so he did something to get out of the mess, right?
Yeah, I created a meme. I created a meme saying that Noah was the first prepper.
Yeah. I probably have even used it before, because I know I've used one similar. But then Joseph in the Old Testament, he knew a 7-year famine was coming. He didn't just sit back and say, well, I got faith, God will get me through it, like, which is like foundational to us, but like you got to get out there and do something, so he stored up grain for the 7 years. So that's why I've always been in prepping survivalism. And I just think he did a great disservice to a lot of Catholics. So I think a good majority of those people aren't going to get through these times now. You sit back and just like not do anything, like not form a community, just sit back. Yeah, it'll be all right. Yeah, I don't think so. I'm on the other side of the fence of that argument, and I know a lot of Catholics get pissed off when I say that, but don't really care, because it kind of cuts into my work or ministry. But I don't know. I'm taking up your time, Stefan. But let's get into that with You want to just jump right into the leadership thing,
If you
or
want.
where do you want to go? Yeah, whatever you want to do, man. It's your time.
Well, it's your show, Eric. You ask the questions, I'll supply the answers.
Yeah. So, what do you think about that? What I just proposed, leadership. Is it ingrained into someone at birth? Can you learn it along the way? Is it both? What do you think?
It's partly both. First of all, studies show that only 5% of people are born with natural leadership qualities. Some people are definitely born leaders. Other people, even though they're not born leaders, they can learn
Hmm.
leadership. Now, maybe they don't feel comfortable with being a leader. Maybe they don't, it doesn't come as naturally to them. Maybe they're not as good as it, but it doesn't matter. Everybody right now needs to become a leader. For example, even in my community here, everybody in the community is a leader. We don't, you know, get together at the meetings and we listen to the chairman and the chairman decides what to do. No, everybody takes an initiative and does their own thing to accomplish what we need to do as a community. And they take it on themselves. They become leaders in their own field of expertise. So we have people in the community that they organize the first aid and medical training. Then we have other leaders that organize lessons on horticulture and gardening. Then we have other leaders that organize workshops on how to make medicinal extracts from plants that you can harvest in the forest. I mean, we have leaders that take it upon themselves to put together the radio team and test everybody once a week on the radio and go to Staples and print out topographical maps of our territory and the area that we live in so that we can plot the range of our radio. I mean, they all do that themselves. It's not like we said, "Oh, let's, we got to do this." They just took it on themselves. I'll be in charge of radios. This is what I'm going to do. They do all the work themselves. So they have to, everyone needs to take a leadership role. I get a lot of emails from people that say, listen, I'm trying to form a community and I can't get it started and I can't find anybody. But listen, you got to be a leader. You got to go to the Lions Club meeting and ask to speak for 10 minutes in front of all the members and get up there and say, listen, I'm concerned about, and it's not just the Lions Club, it could be the Rotarians, it could be your church, it could be your neighborhood watch. Go up there
Hmm.
and talk to them and say, listen, I'm concerned about the way things are going, and I would like to find people that'd be interested in working together to find alternative methods of feeding our families and alternative methods of providing health care for our families and alternative methods for communications in case the internet or the grid or the power goes down. Who's interested in forming a community of people that would be interested in that? And okay, maybe you get laughed out of the Rotarian Hall. Who cares? Who cares if you succeed or fail? But if you don't do anything, no, you're not going to get a community. You're not going to form one. You have to be the leader. And to be a leader like that, it's a little bit scary, okay? You're going to put yourself out there, and so you're a little bit vulnerable. You're vulnerable to criticism and vulnerable to rejection. But if you don't do it, it's not going to happen. People
Right. Yeah.
aren't going to be spontaneously form a community. It won't happen. That's why you, the listeners, have to do this on your own. And it doesn't matter how big or how small. Let's say you just want to start a Meal on Wheels community because there's people in your neighborhood, and usually it's seniors and people that are, have medical disabilities and can't get out. And you're going to cook meals for them and deliver it to their house. We've done that in our community. let's say you want to start just there with your church, then start there. Get people that are interested in coming together once a week. We'll cook everything on Sunday, and Monday to Saturday we'll distribute it to needy members. Do something, but it requires leadership qualities. So listen, there's a lot of great books on the market about leadership and how to become a leader. Study those books. A lot of good information. You can teach yourself to be a leader, even if you're not a born leader, like yours truly, but you can learn it, okay? It's not rocket science. And okay, it takes a little bit of courage. But here's where we get into the stoicism. I don't care if you like me or you don't like me. I don't care if I'm popular. Look at my YouTube channel. I'm hardly popular. But then again, I'm not always selling myself because I don't care to sell myself. I'm not like that. Homie, don't play that game. I will speak the truth. I will give you the best information I can according to my life experience and my research. And if that resonates with you, wonderful. And if it doesn't resonate with you and you think I'm a lunatic, I don't care. I really don't care. So to be a good leader, you can't rely on positive feedback from the people around you because they're not going to give it to you.
Yeah, no, I've run into the same situation on the Christian slash whatever you want to call it, Catholic slash Christian side. I just say it a little bit differently. Got to be emptied out of all self love. People who love themselves to that point when anytime they get any sort of negative feedback or whatever, they'll get all emotional. Well, if you're empty of self love, then you become what you just described as stoic. You don't care what other people have to say, and that's why I've taken a lot of heat in the Catholic world. It's like this guy's like actually really saying what's on his mind. He's not being like political, and he's calling out these other Catholics. And I was like, I've been doing that since day one. Like, if I don't like you, I'm gonna tell it to you. Tell it to you on your face. I've had interviews where it's gone down like that. Very rare. But listen, that's we have to be like that, and that's the whole idea behind that. The roundtable thing I want to do on the 29th too, by the way, where I invite people from all over the world. Hey, speak your mind. Come join me. Type of thing. Tell me what your issues are with setting up your community and what's happening in your neck of the woods, because everyone's got to learn to step up to the plate and take charge. Yeah. So I'm right there. I'm right there with you on that. And those of you know my background, and I agree with Stefan too. I think partly it's always been ingrained to me to be a leader. I certainly it transitioned very well onto the basketball court, being like an ex-athlete, sort of, putting together a team and with a common goal, type of thing. But also, I learned it going through, the business program. I got a master's degree in business. I had to sit there and go through all those, exercises on Saturday where you're leaning back on people, trying to. Those trust exercises. I wrote my thesis. I wrote my thesis on servant leadership, based upon Christ and the humility, aspect to the side where you're sitting back. And I've always said a good leader surrounds themselves with better leaders. So yeah, if you're going to try to be a dictator in your own community, you're done for. You got to sit there and you got to listen to everyone, because everyone has so many different gifts in their own little niches and areas that you're going to miss if you just are barking out orders type of thing. So I'm in agreement with you there, Stefan. But where do you want to go next in terms of leadership? Is there certain qualities that a good masculine leader has? What would you say to that?
Absolutely. And have you ever seen the series Lonesome Dove?
I've not. I've heard of it though. Isn't that like a Western or something?
You've
Or
got
is
to
it?
watch it, Eric. You've got to watch it. Trust me, you'll like it. It's a 6-hour series. I first saw it because I don't like Westerns personally. I don't watch them. I don't like Westerns. But I was living in Taipei, and on Sunday nights they ran that series, Lonesome Dove, and it was in English. It wasn't dubbed in Chinese. So I watched it because it was the only thing in English on TV on Sundays. Well, any day. But their depiction of masculinity and the kind of toughness that the pioneers and the settlers had to have in order to settle this country. It is the greatest depiction, cinematic depiction of masculinity I have ever seen. It's well worth the 6 hours. Binge watch it. It's free on YouTube. Robert Duvall, Tommy Lee Jones, uh, just all the actors were wonderful. But I cry because we don't even have the idea anymore of what masculinity is. We live in a world where conservatives and Christians are beaten and terrorized by fat women with purple hair and men wearing dresses.
Right. Yeah.
No,
Yeah, that's it. Man.
we're
Yeah, it's true.
terrorized by these people. Are you effing kidding me? Are you effing kidding me? You let these people
Yeah.
terrorize you? Men in
And it shouldn't be like
dresses?
that.
Huh?
And it shouldn't be like that. Yeah. I mean, I argue that too. And again, I would argue those, quote unquote Christians who allow themselves to do that. I mean, not only are pacifists, really in reality, they're not real Christians. And again, I've like I just mentioned a few minutes ago, I tell people that because I've said this from the beginning. We're not meant to be the tail in this situation to the New World Order. We're meant to be the head. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? We're supposed to be telling them what to do. Like, take a look at what's happening over there in Russia. Like, I mean, as much as I think Putin is a puppet, he don't play games over there. You want to march around, and do purple hair, and take your those feminine ladies running around with their boobs hanging out. You are going to get beat down and thrown in jail. That's how it should be. Like, they don't play games over there with that stuff.
No, that's how it
Um,
should be. I mean, think 100 years ago, if a 300-pound bearded man with makeup, a wig, and a dress wanted to go into the schoolhouse and talk to your kids, they would pour hot tar over them and then empty a bag of feathers on them and then tie them to a 4x4 and ride them out of town. That's what would have happened 100 years ago with drag story time. And here, now look at what's happening here in Canada. Can you believe this? They are trying to pass a law that will fine you $25,000 if you protest drag story time. That's what
right? Yeah, it's crazy. Yeah,
yeah,
completely satanic. Yeah.
yeah. Um, so, masculinity. You know, guys, look, we need real men again, okay? There aren't very real men anymore, Eric. I'm a pretty tough guy, right? Martial arts instructor for 40 years. I fought thousands of matches. I've been all over the world to study it. But to be honest with you, I'm not really a tough guy. Our great grandparents, they were tough guys. What they had to endure to
Mm-hmm.
explore and settle and develop this country and to build the
Mm.
roads and the towns,
Yeah.
those were tough people. I'm not in their league. I'm not.
The mental side is way way harsher or way more difficult than the physical side.
Oh,
You know what I
yeah.
mean? Only
Yeah.
the stronger are going to survive mentally. Ahead. Again, it's not all like positive thinking, per se. I don't want to leave it like that. But man, I bring on people such as yourself or the EJ Snyders, and they always run to that mental side first. Like, if you're not ready to be able to adapt yourself on a daily basis, and that's one of the seven principles to Trad Cat Night. And I know I've mentioned this to you off air, and I think you could probably recall this, but eventually we're trying to get together, whatever you want to call it. We'll call it Order of the Eagle, but um, a Catholic sort of military group, which will be spaced out sort of in pockets throughout, the world. We'll see how that plays out
No,
and
that's a
everything.
good idea. I know. You've told me
Yeah,
about that.
like yeah. So, and then like we'll call them like coordinators type thing, coordinators for each like little community, type of thing. And that's why I'm behind a paywall in part. I mean, you can't say this stuff
No.
publicly. FBI would be at my door and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, it's constantly talked about. The mental side is going to be far more challenging than the physical side to this. And this is where you got to kind of just stay in the moment too. Maybe you could talk about that too. I don't want to get you too much off your train of thought there, but I know I have a bad habit because I have an overactive imagination. You could start thinking like too far ahead.
Yes,
Like when
you
you're
do.
planning. Yeah. You want to talk to that maybe for a minute?
Yeah, listen, it is three battles that we are fighting. It's a mental battle, it's a spiritual battle, and it's a physical battle. And you need to be prepared on all three areas. So let's talk about the easy one first, the physical battle. You should be training every day, whether it's boxing or karate or jujitsu or archery, or whether it's taking a 2 hour walk every day, or whether it's bicycling 10 miles every day you've got to be doing something physical. Now, personally, I think going out in nature is the best physical activity. If you want to do kung fu or tai chi, do it in the park. If you want to do a bicycle ride, don't get on the fitness club and get on the stationary bike. Get on a real bicycle and bicycle through the countryside. Get on the single tracks and hit the bicycle trails that follow along the river and through the forest. Canoe, hike, camp. The more you're in nature, the stronger you'll become physically. There's a lot of theories behind this, such as grounding. Take off your shoes and walk in the grass in your bare feet. That will cure you of many things like arthritis and cancer and high blood pressure, just walking barefoot through the forest. So you need to do the physical part. You need to do the mental part, but the mental part is stoicism, which means mentally you plan your day, you plan your week, you plan your month, and you plan for what could go wrong. Murphy's Law. We just talked about that. Because it will go wrong. All your plans will go wrong at some point. And then what do? What's plan B? What's plan C? What's plan D? If this doesn't work, I will do what? This is a mental exercise. It's called rehearsal. It's a way to practice what you're going to do when everything turns to crap for you. Because if you don't practice ahead of time what you're going to do when all your plans fail, then you're going to panic. Then you're going to be stuck without a plan. And if you don't have a plan, the old saying, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. If you don't have a plan, then you're lost. So part of the mental side is to plan what to do and to plan what to do if things don't go right. That's why we're preppers. If the grocery stores don't open, now what? Right? Well, you got to be a prepper. That's now what? So the mental side is planning for failure, having an idea. You go through it in your head. It takes 10 minutes in the morning, Eric. That's all. Okay, today I want to do this, I want to do that, I want to do this, I want to do that. Oh shit, I got a flat tire on my bicycle. I can't do any of that. This happened to me Wednesday. Okay, now what? Well, I got to walk 5 miles to the hardware store and get an inner tube. So off I go, and right in the middle of my walk, I am inundated in a torrential downpour. So now I'm soaking wet, walking down the street, trying to get to the hardware store to get an inner tube so I can fix my bicycle so I can go through my day. Well, that's what happens. That's life. Life is like that. But you know what? It didn't bother me. I'm soaking wet. I walk into the store. I'm dragging a puddle of water behind me. Anyways, but it didn't bother me, right? It didn't bother me mentally because that's the way life goes. You got to expect things to get ugly, and you got to expect things to go wrong. And if you're going to get upset about it, well, then you're not a man. A man is prepared for all eventualities. Then you're not a leader. A leader thinks ahead. And if things don't go according to the way you planned them, that's life. So you just push through. You work through it. You keep going, It did cross my mind maybe I should phone a taxi and just go home. But I don't have a phone. So that, but it just crossed my mind for a second, and then I went, no, 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 no. I'm just going to keep going. It doesn't matter. I'm soaking wet. It doesn't matter. I got another 2 miles to go, and then 3 miles to get back. Um, Look, that's the way life works. So mentally, you have to be tough. You can't let every little setback upset you. And then finally, and this is what we've talked about before, Eric, and what you know very well, and that is you need to be spiritually strong. I have a relationship with God. It's my own personal relationship. It's just me and Him. I don't go through a church. I don't go through a preacher. But we understand each other. That gives me strength. It gives me a spiritual strength because I know that the way I live my life, because it's my virtue and my morality, that every God, whether it's the Christian God or whether it's the Buddhist God or whether it's the Shinto God, every God approves of me because I live according to their principles. So that makes me spiritually strong. I am not frightened by 300-pound men in dresses. It doesn't scare me. I'm not intimidated by them because I have a relationship with God that I know He approves of, and that's the way I live my life. And, you know, if in the end I die, it turns out there is no God and all that kind of stuff, I would still live this type of life because it makes the most sense. It's also the most logical. To be an honorable, reliable, independent, critical thinker and a real man that can take the hardship, that can absorb the suffering, and there's so much suffering around, Eric. It hurts me. It hurts me. You know, it really does. Because I'm empathetic. If I see children or people or old people, if I see them suffering, it hurts me in my heart. I actually get a pain in my chest. But that's the spiritual path we are on. So we need to absorb the suffering and, where possible, alleviate the suffering of our fellow humans. And that is a spiritual battle. And so you need to be right with God, whoever that God is. Like I said, my God's not your God or anybody else's God. It's just me and Him. We've got an understanding. I will follow by your dictates, and that will strengthen me to keep going.
Yeah, good stuff. Well said. Well, Stefan, we're just about out of time. My goodness, I'm looking at the time. These podcasts are moving faster and faster as each day goes by. We got 40 minutes logged in, and it feels like 15 or 20 minutes. But I do got to get ready for our next guest, Dr. Paul Cottrell. Let's do a little shameless self-promotion time before we let you go, and where people can find your work and everything you're putting out to the public now.
Okay, so everybody needs to get my survival library. It's $49.95, $50, whatever. Over 300 books on how to survive everything. It's in PDF, so you download it and you store it on a flash drive. And when the power goes out, you put the flash drive in your laptop, and you can read the books you need to read to survive what's going on. Everything from medical textbooks to agricultural books and farming and radios and alternative energy and fishing and hunting and firearms, you name it. It's all in there. You've got to get that book. This is your best chance to survive. So go to my website, chinastrategies.com, and it's right on the front page there. The Survival Library, get that. Second thing, go to my other website, Forming Communities, all one word, formingcommunities.com. Sign up for my online course. It's like, I don't even know how many hours it is, Eric, 8, 10, 12 hours, where I will teach you how to form communities. And there's also a lot of stuff you can download for free, and this will give you the tools and the knowledge to work together with other people. And finally, you know I've never asked this before. If you want to go to my website, China Strategies, there's a page called Donate. If you can kick in coffee, never mind coffee, buy me a beer. It's cheaper than a coffee. It's $2 a beer. It's $6 a coffee at Starbucks, right? Buy me a beer, because I'm about to launch a new project, and I could use some help in that regard, because we're all struggling. I know you are, Eric. I know everybody, all the other truth tellers. Everybody's asking for donations. I've never asked for donations before, but if you can kick in a couple of bucks, it will help me, and I will continue doing what I do.
Good stuff, buddy. Appreciate the time as always. And listen, look for Stefan early next month. I think it's May the 8th, first Saturday. And we've got to get ready for Dr. Paul Cottrell next, folks. Until next time, stay safe. God bless.